Good morning, I'm Joe Fryer. Let's continue our breaking news coverage. This big announcement from President Trump this morning that he's nominating Kevin Warsh to be the new Federal Reserve Chairman, taking office later this year if approved by Congress. Let's bring in NBC News reporter Gary Grumbach, who's been following this. We were expecting this announcement to come today. There's been talk about a few potential candidates. In the end, the president settling on Kevin Warsh, saying, I have known Kevin for a long period of time and have no doubt that he will go down as one of the great Fed chairmen, maybe the best. On top of everything else, he is central casting and he will never let you down. Say congratulations, Kevin. Gary, what else do we know about him?
Yeah, Kevin Warsh served as the youngest Fed governor back during the financial crisis, actually, in 2008. So he's done a very similar job before. Perhaps why President Trump believes he'll be very fit for the top job there at the Fed. He did interview for the job as Fed chair in 2017 during the first Trump administration, President Trump picking instead Jerome Powell, who his term ends in May. So this is an individual who will replace Jerome Powell. And Trump wanted somebody here who would lower interest rates. And clearly, this is somebody who appears to be willing to do that. He's a New Yorker, just like Donald Trump is. Clearly, they see perhaps eye to eye on several different economic and financial issues, something that's very important to President Trump, even though the independence of the Fed altogether is certainly something that's at stake here. Joe?
Yeah, and Gary, I think there was a time for a while where people thought that Kevin Hassett, President Trump's National Economic Council director, seemed to be the shoo-in for this. Did something change over the last few months to point things away from Hassett and toward Warsh?
So he was looking at several different people. He was looking at Kevin Hassett. He was looking at Kevin Warsh. He was looking at a BlackRock executive, somebody who's already in sort of the private sector and in that world, in the financial world. Kevin Hassett has been the head of the National Economic Council since President Trump's first administration, certainly somebody who's been on the inside of the administration. And perhaps this is something that Trump and his advisors did want to give some space to between the administration and the Fed. Of course, for decades, this has been two independent places. You've got the Trump administration over the White House, and then you've got the Fed who controls monetary policy in the United States. So the fact that perhaps it's not Kevin Hassett, somebody who is so close to President Trump, could be a positive thing for the markets.
Gary, stand by, because I'm going to ask you more about sort of what comes next in Congress's role in a moment. But we do want to bring in Investopedia editor-in-chief Caleb Silver. Caleb, this appeared to be where things were leaning, at least in the last day or two. Your reaction to Kevin Warsh being named the Federal Reserve nominee chair by President Trump?
I think it's a choice that's going to be easily approved by the Senate when it finally goes to confirmation. This is a person who's already served on the Fed Board of Governors. He's been critical of this current Fed and for the past couple of Feds in general, but he's also got private sector experience. He's got academic experience. He's worked on a global scale, and he's working as an advisor within private equity. You know, private markets are a big supporter of this administration, so I don't think there'll be an issue with that. I think in general, people that know Kevin Warsh and know his work over the last couple of decades know that he knows how to work both inside and outside of government, and I think that's going to be useful with this administration. And he's also been critical of the Fed being sort of too soft, as a lot of people have criticized it, especially when it comes to not just the interest rate policy, but buying government bonds, growing its balance sheet, so taking supply off the market or putting it onto a market to ease financial conditions. I think you're going to see a more dovish Fed here in that it's more willing to acquiesce to business, to lower rates, so that money will be cheaper and the economy will keep growing at this pace.
Remind us here, Caleb, Kevin Warsh will not be the only person making these decisions. There is a board of governors. Could there be some conflict over the way we've seen the Fed approaching things so far, slowly bringing down the interest rates, voting not to change anything this last time around, drawing the criticisms of President Trump, who wants to see more declines faster in the rates? How could this play out in the coming months once he's approved?
Yeah. There are 12 voting members of the Federal Open Market Committee that do vote on interest rates, and they all have a say in the matter. We just saw at this most recent interest rate decision, it was 10-2 in favor of keeping rates where they are. So it's still pretty split. That said, the president may have another appointment to make on the Federal Reserve, depending on what happens with the investigation and the lawsuit with Lisa Cook. And also, he's got Stephen Miller there, whose term ends this Saturday. That could be extended. So all of that could change the chemistry. One big bogey is what will happen with Fed Chair Powell. Will he stay on as a Fed governor after his term ends as chair in May? That could shift the balance as well. So the drama will not stop at the Federal Reserve even with this nomination. It's only going to intensify.
How do you expect Wall Street to react to this news today, Caleb?
Yeah, I think fairly positively, Wall Street is still digesting some fairly not so good news from some of the earnings reports we heard last night. We saw a big sell-off in software stocks. I don't think it had anything to do with the president's choice here in Kevin Warsh. I think a lot of that was expected. If you started to look at some of the betting markets and the chatter around Wall Street, everyone was sort of pointing to Kevin Warsh as the probable pick. I saw him speak last summer at the Reagan National Economic Forum in California. He was very much on the side of a dovish Federal Reserve policy and having the Fed support the administration versus battling against it all the time. So I think this was expected. Wall Street will probably not react negatively to this. In fact, over time, I think they'll warm up to the idea, especially if the confirmation goes through.
All right. And Gary, real quick, I do want to ask you, spell out how this process is going to move forward in Congress now. Have Democrats made any statements about how they feel about the Fed chair position? Any Republicans out there who've raised any issues about potential Trump nominees?
Well, Democrats certainly want it to be a completely independent process, right? And this will be going through the Senate confirmation process, just like any of Trump's nominees do. In terms of the individual will have to have meetings with senators who perhaps might have some questions or some issues with the individual. And one of the questions that I'm sure is going to come up is, if Donald Trump tells you to do something, will you do it, right? The answer should be no, right? And we'll see what the answer ends up being from Kevin Warsh here, as he is the nominee to be the Fed chair.
All right, Gary, stand by. We're going to talk to you about some other news in just a moment. Our thanks to Caleb Silver for joining us on this breaking news. Right now, we want to get to NBC News Washington reporter Alice Barr for more on this potential government shutdown that is now lingering with a deadline tonight. Also, the latest on the immigration crackdown in Minneapolis. Alice, good morning.
Good morning, Joe. So there was a new snag overnight on Capitol Hill that's raising the stakes again for the government shutdown. And two sources tell NBC News the holdup is over amendments attached to the government funding bill. Leaving the Capitol overnight, the Senate's top Democrat said Republicans need to get their act together, while the Republican leader said there are snags on both sides of the aisle. Shutdown struggles re-emerging on Capitol Hill as overnight a plan to fast-track a government funding vote hit a snag in the Senate, with at least one senator objecting, just hours after President Trump announced a deal had been reached.
We've gotten along very well. We're working on trying to get it to stay open.
5 sources say the plan was to pass a chunk of government funding while splitting off the Department of Homeland Security and taking 2 weeks to negotiate immigration enforcement reforms Democrats are demanding, including ending roving raids and no agents in masks. Bipartisan lawmakers have signaled a willingness to negotiate.
To make sure that we rein in ICE appropriately and make it more professional.
Congress must stop them.
President Trump overnight appearing to shift course again on his administration's response in Minneapolis, asked if immigration enforcement agents would soon start pulling out.
No, not at all.
That after earlier in the day, his border czar, Tom Homan, said this.
My main focus now is drawdown.
Adding that reducing federal manpower in the city depends on cooperation with state and local law enforcement for more targeted migrant removals, focusing in jails and prisons.
The mission is going to improve.
I'll believe it when I see it.
Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Fry in Washington pressing for a full federal pullout and an overhaul of officer conduct as his city reels from this month's deadly shootings of Renee Good and Alex Preddy.
People can see with their own eyes how the funding for ICE is being utilized right now, and it's not creating safety in our communities, it's causing chaos.
If the Senate does reach a government funding agreement today before tonight's midnight shutdown deadline, it still has to go back to the House, and they're not in Washington right now, back early next week. A brief weekend partial shutdown is unlikely to cause major problems, but they're going to need to act fast with transportation funding, part of what's on the line here. That could mean more airport delays coming. Joe?
All right, Alice Barr, thank you so much. Let's bring back NBC News reporter Gary Grumbach to talk more about this story. So, Gary, if both chambers do vote to keep the government funded next week, just what comes next in negotiations between the White House and Democrats when it comes to funding for ICE and just changing what we are seeing in Minneapolis?
Yeah, so Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer has three big demands that he does not seem willing to budge on, at least at this point. One is ending the roving patrols that we've seen in Minneapolis. We saw it in Los Angeles. We see it in Chicago and in D.C. of these ICE officials and federal immigration enforcement going around and just sort of seemingly trying to fish for people that are in the community. He wants an end to that. He also wants an end to the masks that the folks are wearing. No ID, no masks, no label of who the individuals are and who the agents are when they're doing some of these patrols. And he also wants accountability with a uniform code of conduct across the agencies, because you've got DHS, which also includes ICE, Border Patrol, deportation officers, so many different groups of people. He wants one across the board reasonable code of conduct here. Republicans haven't really shown their cards in terms of exactly what they'll be asking for. Senator Rand Paul is hauling leaders of DHS and some of the other agencies in before Congress for a hearing. That'll happen in early February, Joe.
And Gary, before I let you go, there's one more thing I want to ask you. That's the president filing a $10 billion lawsuit in federal court yesterday against the IRS. He's accusing the agency of leaking his tax returns during his first administration. What all is he claiming in this lawsuit?
So he's saying that his own IRS during the first term didn't protect his confidential tax information. And this all goes back to an individual named Charles Littlejohn, who was an IRS employee back in 2018. He allegedly took information from the Trump organization, from Donald Trump, related to his taxes, and it released that to several different news organizations who then published that information. Charles Littlejohn was sentenced to 5 years behind bars for those actions. President Trump is looking for $10 billion from his own federal government in this lawsuit.
All right, a little bit of everything from Washington this morning from Gary. Thank you so much for helping us out. Appreciate it. Let's get a look at this morning's weather, and stop me if you've heard this before. It's going to be another cold one today, and then another, and then another. At least 180 million people are under cold alerts through the weekend. Those warnings extend from Texas to Maine and as far west as North Dakota. Last weekend's storm is now being blamed for at least 85 weather-related deaths across the country. Thousands are still without power as Mother Nature refuses to loosen her icy grip. Check out these scenes showing just how cold it is down south. The sub-zero conditions have taken down thousands of trees across Tennessee and Mississippi. You can see how many have snapped and fallen under the weight of all that stubborn ice. And get this, there could be even more blizzard conditions on the way this weekend. Another storm system expected to quickly develop off the southeast coast, and that is putting 38 million people under winter weather alerts. Let's get a closer look at the forecast with your Morning News Now weather. Angie Lastman joins us with that. Angie, good morning.
Good morning, Joe. We, of course, are going to be, as you mentioned, stuck in the freezer here for the extended period. But let's just look at how long for some folks. So 150 million people, they're not going to get above freezing at all today. We're going to stay below freezing for at least 150 million people. You can see the shading on this map. It extends from the Northeast across the Great Lakes and into parts of the Midwest and the Plains. Those locations will likely see extended periods as well of this kind of bitter cold temperature. So it's going to take a couple of days in some of these spots for us to see temperatures even come above freezing. Where you see this lighter pink, it's going to be at least 7 days. So we have at least another week or so in some of these locations where we are going to be below freezing. That means places like New York City that got all of that snow last weekend. It's going to be a while until that, of course, melts. At this point, we've got 83 million people included in that. So there's a lot of folks that are still going to see that snow on the ground and, of course, are still going to be dealing with those below freezing temperatures. So where do the temperatures exactly land through the day today? Here's what we've got. Just 19 for your high in New York. That's about 20 degrees below where we should be. So we should be closer to 40 than 20. Unfortunately, we're not going to get that today. We've got St. Louis at 19, Minneapolis just 10 degrees, Columbus 17. And you add in a bit of wind, and we know those temperatures feel much cooler than that. We've got teens still on tap tomorrow for Kansas City and Cincinnati, the 30s for Wilmington, 27 degrees for Atlanta, and we roll right into February with these frigid temperatures in a lot of spots. So Minneapolis, Cleveland, into the teens and 20s, Boston as well as we finish out our weekend, and it's 30s across the board, even into next week as we look to Wilmington. Now, Florida also going to see some potential record lows with this next push of Arctic air as we get into Sunday morning, and you can see see, there's a whole lot of those, not just for the Sunshine State, but across parts of the Southeast. We've got West Palm, Miami, Melbourne, Gainesville, Tallahassee. You get the picture. Montgomery, all included in this for these potential records as we see the chance for some dangerous freezing temperatures by Sunday morning. We'll likely see some damage to trees, and I say that because of the crops, of course, across specifically Central Florida. We know there's a lot of citrus agriculture going on there. This will be damaging for folks there. But look at Miami, 36 degrees Sunday morning, but feeling like 26. It has been a while since folks there felt that kind of temperature. It'll rebound pretty quick. Notice we get into Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I know this is rude to do to the people in the Northeast, but I know my friends in Miami are going to be struggling with those 30 temperatures. So 60s are back on tap here as we get into the early parts of next week. But Joe, we've also got a winter storm system to check out, and that is going to bring some heavy snow to parts of the Carolinas and the eastern coast. It'll kind of intensify here as we get into Sunday as well and brush past New England, giving additional folks in places like Boston some snow.
All right, and it'll rebound to 72 here in May,
well,
probably.
Yeah, I'll see you in June. It'll be a while before we get to that level.
Thanks, Angie. Appreciate it.
You got it.
Luigi Mangione will be back in a New York court today, days after a bizarre incident. Authorities say an imposter tried to break Mangione out of a Brooklyn jail. A man allegedly showed up at the jail, falsely claiming to be an FBI agent with a court order for Mangione's release. That man has since been arrested. Right now, there's no evidence that Mangione was working with the suspect. Mangione is being held while awaiting trial on state and federal charges. That includes 2 counts of murder for the shooting death of former United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. He's pleaded not guilty to all the charges against him. The 27-year-old suspect has developed a pretty passionate fan base since he was captured more than a year ago. NBC News correspondent Emily Ikeda has more on this story.
Luigi Mangione, the target of a Minnesota man's bizarre plot to break him out of a federal jail in Brooklyn. 36-year-old Mark Anderson is charged with impersonating an FBI special agent after he showed up to the Metropolitan Detention Center Wednesday, according to a complaint, claiming he was an FBI agent in possession of paperwork signed by a judge authorizing the release of a specific inmate. A law enforcement source telling NBC News that inmate was Mangione, who is one of MDC's highest profile inmates, along with Venezuela's former autocratic leader, Nicolas Maduro. Court documents also show when asked for credentials, Anderson displayed his Minnesota driver's license and then claimed to be in possession of weapons. In Anderson's backpack, Bureau of Prison officials found this barbecue-type fork and round steel blade that resembled a pizza cutter. Anderson had been working at a pizzeria after a job opportunity he traveled to New York for didn't work out, according to a law enforcement source. Mangione has pleaded not guilty to federal and state charges for allegedly gunning down United Healthcare's CEO.
What's your name? Mark.
Before fleeing to Pennsylvania, where he was arrested following a 5-day manhunt. The attempted jailbreak playing out just ahead of Mangione's return to court. Emily Ikeda, NBC News.
Now let's bring in NBC News legal analyst Misty Maris to break down Mangione's ongoing court cases. Good to have you with us. So today, this is part of the federal case where prosecutors are seeking the death penalty. His attorneys are trying to get that taken off the table. The judge expected to rule on that soon. Also, just whether certain evidence can be used against Mangione. Would we expect those decisions today? And whenever we get them, how will they affect the federal case, but maybe even the state case moving forward?
So the judge had said that we might get these decisions this week. Federal court judges have a lot of oversight as far as timeline in their courtroom. There's no rule about when they could come down. But these are of tremendous consequence. So first of all, you have the evidentiary issue. That's going to shape the way the trial plays out. But even more consequential for Mangione is the death penalty still on the table. These arguments have been raised. There's a federal court date for jury selection in September. If the death penalty is not on the table, trial will be in October. If it is on the table, it will be in January because it's a more complicated process.
Wow, that's incredible. So let's look more at the timetable because right now, as you said, jury selection, the federal case set to begin September 6th, I believe. But then you have the state case on Wednesday. Prosecutors wrote a letter to the judge. They want a July 1st start date for that. Mangione's legal team is calling that request unrealistic. What typically happens here when it's state and federal? Who usually gets the case first?
So there's a couple of factors that are looked at. One is which case came first. So in this case, the state case came first. And at the time, this is, going back to 2024, prosecutors had agreed that the state case would have priority. Well, that got flipped on its head because then the Trump administration took over. Pam Bondi announced she's seeking the death penalty. So the defense fought back and said, we want the Fed case to go first because it's the more serious case with the more serious consequence. So this is still going to be something that's up to judicial discretion. But funny enough, the state case had moved along, but it's been lingering. No trial date has ever been set. Now you got a federal date on the books. So the defense has an argument to say we simply can't prepare for both of these in that close period of time.
And looking at the complicated calendar here, my understanding is in the state case, the next hearing isn't until May. We know in this letter I was talking about filed this week, state prosecutors are claiming that the case would be, quote, unfairly prejudiced by a delay until after the federal trial. Is that a strong argument for the state here?
So there's a reason why state prosecutors are chomping at the bit to get this on the calendar ASAP, and it's because the laws on double jeopardy, that's you can't be prosecuted for the same crime twice, are way more broad in New York than they are under the federal law. So there's dual sovereignty, so you can be prosecuted on a federal and state case. But Mangione's team will undoubtedly raise this argument, and they have a leg to stand on. And what prosecutors don't want is a situation where they take that risk. They're fighting whether or not they can even bring the charges because the federal court case moves forward. So that's why they want to see this go before the Fed case is even
Seems like we could have 2 trials this year, or we could have 0 trials this year. There's a lot still to be decided, basically.
Absolutely.
Right? All right, Misty Maris, good to have you with us.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.